Hello and welcome to KADY Connect. My name is Catherine and I am here today to present to you a PowerPoint presentation on navigating emotions. Welcome, settle in, make sure you have a paper, a pen and a drink bottle, and feel free to pause this video at any time to journal or to reflect on anything that you may find you want to write on, and settle in and let's get started. So here we are with the cognitive triangle, and this will be an important integral part of our this video plus 2 more videos, so a total of 3 videos that I will be doing on these different areas. So we're going to be looking at feelings today, we're going to be looking at thoughts, and we're going to be looking at behaviors. So some of you may recognize this as the cognitive triangle. Those people who have done some study on CBT will recognize that quite often these are the drivers of how we experience emotions or how we experience things that happen both in the external world and the internal world. And I wanted to narrow in today on our middle state, which is the feelings. So the feelings, which we can also call emotions, and there is some difference between them, but for the sake of today, we're just going to call them the same things so that we don't get too bogged down in the nitty-gritty. So I want to start off by talking about emotions. So what are emotions, you may ask? Let me share that with you. So emotions are complex physiological and psychological states that arise in response to a stimuli, a situation, thoughts, or relationships. They encompass a wide range of feelings and can vary in intensity, duration, and expression. And emotions can play a fundamental role in shaping human experiences and behaviors. Emotions, let's go to the psychological and the physiological responses to those and look a little bit deeper into that. So you'll see a psychological state is a feeling that we feel inside, an internal state that we feel, like maybe we're feeling angry, or we're feeling happy, or we're feeling envious, or we might be feeling a bit blue, as they may say. So these are the things that happen in our mind. We experience this state in a mental state. It might be in regards to how we're mentally thinking about that particular thing. So sometimes we might be happy and we might be comfortable with happiness. Other times we might be happy and it could cause a nervous anticipation about it. But these are all kind of, I guess, for a simple way of saying it, they're all in our head, and they're the ways that we think and feel about it as far as a psychological state. Whereas in physiological state is how it affects our bodies. So when we have certain feelings and emotions, how they can affect us. And I'm pretty sure you've heard of those states where they talk about being in fight or flight state, or freeze. And so sometimes we have a parasympathetic or a sympathetic response. So one being we might shut down and freeze and completely go into a state of immobilization, whereas another state we might go into complete panic. Our heart rate might increase really fast, we might get sweaty hands, we might want to run, anticipation, and all those type of things. So emotions can affect us in many different ways, both how we're feeling and thinking in our head, and also how we're feeling and thinking in it, or not thinking, but how we're feeling in our physiological body. Right, so just let's take a closer look at this particular chart. So just to reiterate, the sympathetic nervous system is the system that creates the fight-flight response. That's when our system completely goes into survival mode and we either run for our lives or we just want to fight and put every effort in possible. So you'll see in the sympathetic system, our eyes, our pupils dilate, we start to inhibit our saliva, we relax our bronchi, we get an accelerated heartbeat, our digestive system shuts down because we don't need to digest, we need to put all our energy into whatever exercise or energy we need. We stimulate the release of glucose, our kidneys and our adrenal glands all jump into activation, we stimulate secretion of the epinephrine and the norepinephrine, sorry, and our bladder relaxes and our sexual organs become very active. So this is a response that we get when we're in fight or flight mode. When we're in parasympathetic nervous system, which is what we want to get to when we're relaxed and kind of in a steady state, it's more like when we get back to our contracting pupils, we start to salivate again, you know, like, because if we've just been in fight and flight, we'll quite often notice that we've got a dry mouth. So one of the first things that comes back is our saliva. Our bronchi begins to constrict and starts to pump blood around again, and our heart slows down. Our digestive system starts creating again, and things start getting back to normal, like our bladder and all those type of things, and we just get back to what we would call normal. Now, this can also be what happens in a freeze response, in the fact that we actually slow down to the point that it gets to the point where we don't even function normally, in the fact that we really slow down and really close down, and we can't find the energy to get going, and we're really into that survival shutdown, completely parasympathetic system shut down too. So we, either way, we want balance in between the two. We want to be able to get into our sympathetic system if we want to be able to exercise or we want to go and do something, and then we want to be able to get back into parasympathetic regular system as well. So that's just a little bit of information, a closer look at our physiological response to what we get in situations where our emotional response may be activated or deactivated, depending on which emotion we're talking about. So here's just an example of some of the emotions you might have had. So you can see here we've got happiness, surprise, bad, fearful, and they're the kind of the main kind of cracks. There's like 7 of them. Some people put it down to 6, some people put it to 8, but for the sake of this one, we're looking at 7 different core basic emotions, and then these can go like direct out into more specific emotions that we may have in relation to that. And this wheel can quite often be helpful. You can just do a simple Google search and find one that suits you, but I like this one to help you name your emotion that you might be feeling and get a little bit more curious with it, which we'll get into in a moment. So obviously there's a lot of emotions here, and there's a lot of things we've got to think about, like, and so what are we going to do with all these emotions, and what can we do with them? And I can hear you saying, yeah, okay, great, so I've got emotions, now what? So I'm here, let me tell you how to do this. So step 1 is recognizing that you are experiencing your emotions. That's not that you are your emotions. So quite often we hear people going, I'm sad, I'm happy, I am, you know, depressed is actually quite a common one we hear, right? You are not your emotions. You are experiencing your emotions. So I am feeling sad, or I am feeling nervous, or I am experiencing depression right now. You are not ever your feelings. And I really love this picture of this book that's written here, because it shows all the different emotions that may be affecting our state or our situation in life, but they are not who we are. We are our normal human beings. We're just living beings, just being in this world, and we're having all these kind of reactions and responses to them in a way, like, you know, in a feeling way or an emotional way. So that's step 1. Step 1 is recognizing that you're experiencing feelings. Step number 2 is identifying these particular emotions and giving them names. As a child, you may remember, you used to be told, okay, if you're scared of that monster under the bed, let's give him a name. You know, once we name him, then it becomes a little more familiar and a little more easier to identify them. And we're not so afraid of what's out there because we don't know what to call it, and we don't know what it is. If we're able to identify it and give it a name, we start to connect with it in a way, and it can become more, like, have more of a shape, I guess is a way of saying it. So identifying what the particular emotion is that you're experiencing and giving it a name and saying it, sometimes saying it not out loud, like, hello sadness, I see you, or hello, or what other words, I'm just trying to grab one, I can't see them, they're too small there. Hello amusement, that was an amusing response I just had there. Or hello frustration, I feel you, I can see you, that you're right there, I know that I'm experiencing this now. Now you may not want to use it in that kind of chirpy kind of voice. You might want to acknowledge it as, all right, I can see right now I'm experiencing this, and name it and identify it. And maybe you'll have to carry around this little emotion wheel for a while so that you can actually name the emotions that you're getting and experiencing at any particular time. Okay, so step 3 is to accept that all our emotions are information. This is the stage where we get to realize that our emotions are literally just telling us some information about what we're experiencing at the time. It is not something that can be relied on as facts, and it is something that basically just says, okay, something is happening right now that you are having a response to. So take a moment to just be a little kind with yourself and recognize that something is going on. And then, of course, you know what I was going to say here. Get curious. Get curious what is going on with your emotions. What is it trying to tell you? What's the information that's there that it wants you to get curious about? So what is happening inside me? What is activating this particular moment? Who and how, and all those questions that are written in this magnification there. This is when we can do the journaling work and get a bit more curious about what is going on. And then we move into step 5. Step 5 is when we remind ourselves that these emotions are temporary. Like all emotions, they come and go. So we get to recognize that we're not necessarily always going to feel those emotions. And I love this image because it really does show that even though, for instance, we maybe experience rainy weather, which if we use as a metaphor of our emotions, we may be feeling sad, that just around the corner on the other side of the cliff is some happiness or some joy. Sometimes there's more sun and there's less rain, and other days there are more rain and less sun. What we do need to remind ourselves is the sun shines regardless of the weather. It just shines on the other side of the clouds. And sometimes that can be difficult, especially for those people who have experienced depression, is that they can often get stuck in a place where they no longer can see any sign of the sun coming out. And it's that time when we really do need to reach out and get some help from some professionals who can maybe help us dissipate a bit of our clouds and things like that. And so therefore I've added this step 6 in here because it's really important to acknowledge that you need some additional support at time with emotions, and that sometimes you need to actually allow yourself to reach out and get some help where you need it. So sometimes it's not just about handling things on your own. Sometimes we need somebody to help us dig a little deeper and find out what it might be connected. That sometimes when we find that missing link and that connection, go, right, now I understand why that's connected to that particular thing. And it can be just somebody asking really simple questions. They don't need to be telling you what you're thinking. I'm pretty sure you could work that out for yourself, but just some really gentle questions to help probe towards finding out what is so intertwined in there that's made those emotions stick or connect to something that may be related to the past or some other experience that you may be going through at the moment. And then step 7 is letting go of your emotions. And this can often be difficult because it's easy for somebody to just say, just let go of your emotions, just get over them. It's not about getting over them. It's about actually moving through them. So if you need a really good cry, find somewhere to have a good, safe cry. If you want to be angry, find a healthy and resourceful way of being angry. Find a way that's able for you to move through those emotions by releasing, to be able to get that catharsis cathartic kind of response to your system, so that you're able to replenish yourself and rebalance and calibrate your emotional state so that you are ready to take on the world again. So final stage here is step 7, where you're able to release the emotion that's pent up and to feel like you've moved through a process. Rather than suppress and block those emotions, you've actually moved through a process and you've got to the stage where you can release it, almost like a butterfly that you've, or some kind of a pet or something that you've kind of nurtured your way through. You've raised it to the point where you can now let it and set it free. I guess probably that's a better way of saying it, is actually allowing your emotions the freedom. So giving yourself the freedom to let go. So as we know, this is really just a touch on a little bit more about emotions, because if we really want to get into the deep depth of it, there's a whole system going on inside our brains with emotions being triggered, connected to our amygdala, our thalamus, our dorsal polyvagal system. Everything's kind of connected and can be related to past memories or sensations or smells and all these different things that are also going on that can complicate it. So we have so many different things that can create and affect our emotions. So this is just a really little glimpse into what emotions are. And emotions can be complicated, but we don't have to avoid them. And if there's one lesson you get from that today, it's this. Remember that emotions are all come together to create a picture, and that something is going on inside us, and it's about just getting more information, more gathering, more understanding about us as complex, amazing beings that come together with a whole system of past and present and future things all going on, that when we get to know ourselves better, we can create a bigger and brighter future for ourselves. So thanks again for joining us today. Appreciate you watching through this. I would love any feedback that you want to offer. This is the first video I've made of this style. I hope that it has been of value to you. And I would love for you to journal and share in the group what has been your takeaways or anything that has come up for you. And yeah, looking forward to connecting soon. Take care. Bye for now.